Most little girls look forward to the day they marry the love of their lives. In fact, many women have their dream wedding planned out before they even start dating the man they plan to marry. Casey was just like many other women, and she was looking forward to the day that she finally got to say "I do" to the love of her life. After all of her planning, she never expected her day to play out this way. Also, if you have not done already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. They were about to make their marriage official, but there was something that Casey needed to do first. Her whole family was there to support her, but they had no clue what was about to happen. She noticed that her parents' eyes were filling with tears, and she immediately knew that she needed to expose her fiancé for what he was. It was time for Casey to answer the priest's questions, but she pulled out her phone instead. The bride then began to read text messages that proved to everyone who her fiancé really was. The couple had been dating for a little over 6 years, and in an interview, the bride explained that she knew he was the one from the moment they met. Eventually, even their families became friends. "I believe we would live happily ever after," said Casey. However, Casey got a message on the day of her wedding that made her heart sink. Casey woke up early on her wedding day to prepare with her girlfriends. They shared memories and laughed about everything they'd done to make their wedding beautiful. The flowers, the bottles of champagne, the dress, and all of the excitement that would soon fill the air. Casey was only a few hours away from saying "I do" to the love of her life, but she had no clue that she wouldn't be getting the wedding she dreamed of. Casey and her girlfriend spent some time in her hotel room drinking champagne, feeling like princesses. Suddenly, Casey's phone began to buzz, and she walked over to check it out. She'd been receiving messages of love and congratulations all day, but this message was different. One of the bridesmaids said, "Phone is running hot tonight, Casey." Casey wasn't expecting this message, and everything changed as soon as she read it. The text had pictures from a number she didn't know, along with a message that said, "I would marry him, will you?" The pictures were of conversations between another woman and her fiancé, showing a wide range of things, including selfies of the woman and Casey's fiancé. The woman in all the pictures was completely different from Casey, with olive skin and dark hair. Casey immediately took the phone and locked herself inside the bathroom to examine every single picture. These texts went months back, and there were even some from a few days prior. She couldn't figure out what was going on, but she knew these texts were real. Everything was ready for an unforgettable day. All the guests had arrived, and the caterers were serving food. Casey couldn't stop thinking about the texts and had no clue what to do. One text said, "This weekend, you and I, it's on hot stuff. Bring your A game." Casey couldn't believe that her fiancé would cheat on her. Now she had to get revenge. But how? Casey was in love with her fiancé and was ready to marry him, but how could she go through with it knowing what she knew now? She had a lot to think about, so she turned to the people who could help her the most. Her wedding was only a few hours away, but those texts kept swirling around her mind, stabbing her in the heart. There was no way she could cancel, but she told her bridesmaids what was happening. Her friends were shocked at the news, but they knew something had to be done. The bridesmaids wanted to hear everything, but Casey was too shook up to divulge it all. Despite being in shock, Casey decided to do what was expected of her. "I was going to go ahead with the wedding as expected and out him in front of our friends and family," she explained. So she dressed in her stunning white dress, grabbed her flowers, and headed down the aisle. "My dream dress is now just a costume," she began to think as she walked towards the man who was breaking her heart. Casey's fiancé looked at her as she made her way down the aisle. He knew that she didn't look happy, but he had no clue what that was about. Casey arrived at the front of the room, took a big breath, and faced their friends and parents. "Once the time came for me to say I do, I took out my phone instead and faced our friends and family. There will be no wedding today," Casey announced. Jaws dropped all over the room as guests tried to understand what was happening. Even the groom was taken by surprise. The groom quickly tried to grab Casey's hand, but she flicked it away and continued speaking. "It seems Alex is not who I thought he was," Casey declared. The crowd was shocked, but the groom continued to try to grab Casey's hands again. As Casey dropped the bouquet, she exposed the well-hidden phone she was clinging to. Casey then began to read every text and show every screenshot to the crowd. Also, if you have not done already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. The groom was caught, and there was nothing he could say to fix things. Followed by his best man, he immediately left the church. So what was going to happen next for the couple? The family of the groom looked repulsed, and neither could any of the other guests. Casey realized that she'd have to give a better explanation. After taking a deep breath, she began to speak as she faced her guests. "I love all of you, and as horrible as this is, I'm glad you're all here. There will not be a wedding reception today, but instead, there will be a celebration of honesty, finding true love, and following your heart even when it hurts." There was some cheering and awkward applause, but it seemed that Casey's bridesmaids were the ones clapping. They couldn't believe how strong Casey was in continuing everything that she'd planned for the day, except for the actual getting married part. Even though Casey wasn't getting married, she still had plenty to celebrate. She just avoided a toxic marriage and a life of unhappiness. But what was she going to do next? Casey celebrated that night by being surrounded by her friends and family. She may have been heartbroken, but she was celebrating because she almost made a horrible mistake. Casey threw an amazing party, and everyone went home with a smile on their face. But why did her fiancé cheat? How did she not realize it before? Dr. Rowan Burkhart believes that there are two big reasons why people choose to cheat. The first is what the cheater probably sees as a problem in the relationship, and the second is the cheating party failing to have romantic feelings for their partner. Casey had no clue that her fiancé was cheating on her. Of course, they had their problems, but when things were bad, Casey just tried to sleep on it in hopes that it would be better the next day. Casey was lucky enough to find out about his cheating ways before they got married. Casey brought her story to the public, and it quickly went viral. Casey's story created a bit of commotion, and it seemed like everyone had an opinion about it. A very brave woman who deserves and will certainly find someone better. "I wish her luck and happiness," expressed Graham Houghton. "Wow, very strong and forward-thinking of her. Honesty is the best policy with self and others." "Blessings all," agreed Willa G. Even so, Casey explained, "It was certainly not the wedding day I had planned, but to our credit, it was one hell of a party." Casey may have been heartbroken, but she knew what she needed to do. She showed herself a bunch of self-love and refused to allow herself to be treated poorly. Every person should take a page out of Casey's book and celebrate their own worth.